Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Today, I've got a video essay for you, and this is why I think the Dark Souls games are some of my favorites, right? So today, we're going to be answering that. And it all starts with the challenge. Now, Dark Souls is different from other RPGs because of the challenge they offer to the players. And I can speak on this because I did beat Dark Souls 1. Now, throughout all of the first game, and now that I've played some of the second and third game, I noticed a very peculiar detail. The more I was determined to beat something, the less tries I had before I beat it. Whether it be a boss or a very difficult area, if you're determined, you will succeed faster than if you went in there expecting to lose. Now, this is a bit of a case of my own personal experience, so if it doesn't work for you, then find something that does. Or, the simpler answer, and the most difficult for a lot of people, is to persevere and never give up. If you have the resolve, you will beat these games. However, if you give up, then you'll become the hollow that most of us have to beat in these games. Meaning, canonically, if you gave up, then I will have killed your Dark Souls character. Now, here's the thing is, when it comes to the challenge, yes, it is brutally difficult, but it is always at least, like, a little bit fair. Bed of Chaos is a little bit different, but, you know, it's always a little bit fair, and I have always taken pride in the fact that I've never given up in the face of adversity, both in Dark Souls, or in games, and in real life. So, but killing your Dark Souls character, that brings me to my next point. The story. Now, the story is one of my favorites because it's mostly filled in, but the lack of a concrete narrative, if you don't look into it, is served to make you think and for you to fill in the blanks yourself. It's kind of like in D&D where, for example, you have a backstory and you have like a little text to fill in your backstory, but when it comes to your character's role and how the backstory actually played out, it's very much up to you. So, for example, you're a noble, but that's where you fill in the blanks by saying something like, oh, I was a noble who was cast out of the family, and now I adventure to pay my bills, or something like that. And this applies to every character class in every game of the entire trilogy. For example, my current class, or my current, character in Dark Souls 2, is the swordsman class. And that's, like, probably one of my favorite characters I've made so far, other than the Sellsword Twin Blades in Dark Souls 3. But I saw that class name, Swordsman, and I filled in the blanks saying that my character trained tirelessly in the art of the sword for years, and years before DS2, where he's trying to break the undead curse, right? In Dark Souls 3, as I said, my class is the Sellsword, so I have the Sellsword Twin Blades, right? Probably my favorite build I've ever built. But I filled in the blanks to say that my character was a sellsword working directly under Lothric, until he failed to link the fire. By the way, that is canon in Dark Souls 3. Your character in Dark Souls 3 is someone who failed to link the fire. Anyways, in which he was trained in some sort of otherworldly dimension by the Chosen Undead from DS1. That's my own personal headcanon, but that is why I love the story of Dark Souls. There's so much room for headcanon, and there's so many blanks for you to fill in if you want to, right? Sure, you can do your research and you can know the actual story, but there's so much room for you to just have your own story and craft your own narrative in the way in these games and what happened and why your character's linking the fire, who your character is, right? And that's why I love the story in these games. The combat in the Dark Souls games is absolutely so satisfying in my opinion because it's built on reaction timing and a very bare bones combat system which allows for more strategy in your combat encounters. The other thing about the combat in the Dark Souls games is the punishing difficulty once again. If you aren't patient, you will get destroyed by even those basic enemies, which means what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my fight against Havel in Dark Souls 1. Now, Havel, right? I've beaten him multiple times. And here's the thing, is that when you first run into him, he's not your typical boss. He just looks like a regular enemy in a really freaking badass armor with a giant-ass club. He looks threatening. But he only looked threatening to me because I know that when even a basic looking enemy has a badass armor on, then that guy's gotta be tough. But to those with the untrained eye, or even, like, now looking back on it, it's very clear that Havel is, like, it's a basic enemy, but he has a shit ton of health, and on top of that, he hits like a brick. Trust me, as somebody who always tries to fight, or somebody who always fights him early game, like literally before I beat the Bell Gargoyles, why? Because of the, Havel's Ring. But as somebody who fights him all the time during early game before I even beat the Bell Gargoyles, I can say for certain, his damage output and his damage output is basically just not even meant to be, you know, it's meant for, I guess, later characters, or not even later, like, late game characters, whatnot, just, like, characters with a lot more health, right? But I did beat him multiple times early game. Sure, it took me multiple tries, but I did do it eventually and every time. But when it comes to basic enemies that can destroy you, that leads me to my next point. The bread and butter of Dark Souls. The boss fights. The boss fights are the bread, as I just said, they're the bread and butter of Dark Souls. They're a nice balance of brutally difficult and extremely fair. This leads Death to a point where you think, this is my fault because I messed up a roll, or something along those lines. The only boss I actually think was absolutely bullshit was the Bed of Chaos. Now, you know, when I faced off the Bed of Chaos, like, before that, I was basically just, like, destroying bosses, right? Because I like Dark Souls 1, but I'm honestly, like, I almost, like, rushed or, like, crushed my way through that game. But the Bed of Chaos humbled me. Not because it was, like, fair, or not because it was, like, you know, a brutal boss fight, it's my fault I died. No, because it was absolutely bullshit. Not even then, it wasn't that bad, because it was a gimmick fight. I don't even know what the hell I would do if it was a traditional boss fight. Thank God it was a gimmick boss fight that I just needed to run, avoid his attacks, and, you know, kill, some waypoints and then one-shot him. Thank God. Only problem with that is that I still died a shit ton of times and had to run all my way back through Lost Izalith over to the Bed of Chaos. That sucked nuts. But, you know, usually with a run back like that, if the boss is okay, or if the boss is, you know, a regular Dark Souls boss, then I'm like, whatever. Like with Seath the Scaleless, you know, sure, definitely was nowhere near my favorite boss fight, but it was still okay enough that I was okay with traveling back when I died. The Bed of Chaos, though, was just completely shit. I hated running back to the Bed of Chaos because I knew that unless I activated my God Gamer moment, or more accurately, unless the stroke of luck hit me, I was going to die and have to run all the way back, right? But, you know, other than that, the boss fights are some of the best I've ever fought in a video game ever. Now, this leads me into my conclusion of this video essay. The Dark Souls games are some of my favorites ever. And, you know, I hope that I proved that to you. Maybe I even sold you on trying them out for yourself. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is kind of a very, very short video essay, but I don't really want to make an hour-long video, and nor do I want to write a script for, like, an hour-long video. So, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you want to see a long-ass video essay like every other YouTuber, please like and subscribe or leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.